Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. When I started this podcast in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women business owners, creatives, and entrepreneurs. In each episode, my guests provide resources, valuable tips, and inspiration. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strength to achieve success on their own terms. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. I'm really glad that you could join us today. And I want to introduce my guest, Kitty Martone. From
Hi.
birth into her young adult years, Kitty was entrenched in the allopathic medical model. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Managing major health conditions. And finally, she turned to holistic healing and used that journey to empower others to teach and build a career from what they learned. And Kitty is a holistic health educator, investigative health journalist, and a 3-time author and podcast host. So welcome to the show, Kitty.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm sure that this is going to be a really good conversation because definitely health is something that we need to know a lot more about, and so people can really protect themselves and just be healthy in what they're doing. So, could you start out by sharing with us how you got started in what you're doing?
Sure. Well, I, like a lot of people who are in the field of health, the health and wellness field, I think a lot of us arrived here because of our health challenges. And then I was basically really ill I was born too early, and I was very, very challenged my whole young life, with different types of, ear, nose, and throat, gut issues, ADD, ADHD. And then, puberty came along and compounded that much, much worse. And, then was dealing with autoimmune issues as I got older. And I was just doing the allopathic model of just going to the doctor, getting a prescription, trying to mitigate my symptoms that way. And of course, at some point, I was probably my early 20s where I just could no longer do the medications one on top of another. I started to have reactions to those medications, like side effects to those, and then being given another medication to, get rid of those side effects. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And I knew I had reached a dead end with that. And, I moved out to Los Angeles from New Mexico. And a very sort of long and treacherous story short, I met my husband, who is a chiropractor, and he introduced me to sort of the world of holistic health and how to sort of take control of your own health and start to work on prevention. And rather than waiting for a symptom to arise and head to the doctor for a Z-Pak or antibiotic, rather than, of course, there's a time and a place for that, but just to start to build your immunity and boost your system to heal naturally and prevent, the things that were happening to me. And I fell in love with the work he was doing. He was working with disabled children, vaccine injured children. He was working with pregnant mothers. He was working very, very very gentle form of chiropractic. And he also did nutrition. And I fell in love with it. And I said, I need to study this. And we went into business together and formed Dedicated Wellness, which has been in Santa Monica now for 17 years. And, I started to sort of branch off a little bit and became this gut oriented, because side note, with these children that he was working with, I couldn't use my conventional nutritional education that I was learning. I couldn't just go in and say, hey, let's put you on a diet. Let's count your macros or whatever, we had to find other ways to help these children. And that research led me to the gut health world and fermented foods and, all these different methods of healing the body through medicine as food or food as medicine. And that's how my business was born. And it just, the podcast era came and I just ran with it. And, I've always had these visions of wanting to have a business, and it's kind of just flourished. I mean, not just like that, but that's how I got to be kind of here. That's the cliff notes.
Well, that sounds like a lot of journeys that I've heard where people start out learning something or doing something for their health or just hitting some kind of situation where now they have to go in a different direction and now they realize that's really where they need to be.
Yeah.
And that's really where they feel that they can do their best work.
Yeah. And that's what I think is something I hope to convey in our discussion today is, I read the book, Millionaire Messenger, and one thing that stood out to me was when the author said, you are an expert to someone. And I thought, everyone thinks, I can't have a podcast. I don't know enough. I can't be a nutritionist and just take a couple of weeks of nutrition and think I can help someone. But if you have an autoimmune disease and you're going through that journey, heck, you don't even have to be healed. You just have to share your experience. You don't have to give advice or try to heal them, but your journey means something to somebody. And I feel like that is really precious when you can share that information with people and even start a business from it.
Mm-hmm. So as far as your journey in the business sense, first of all, you started that out. Were there a lot of challenges when you decided I'm going to go in this other direction or as you went along? That's probably an understatement for any business person. That question.
Yeah. Well, just to give you just a brief idea, my husband was, just a chiropractor. Like that's all his whole thing. He was renting a room out of a back office of a salon, like a massage place. And, he didn't own like a center. And he didn't have the knowledge of that, nor did I. I was a commercial actress when I moved to Los Angeles. So I didn't have any business awareness. So, you think, I'm a chiropractor and I'm good at the front desk. Let's open a business. And you think that that's going to be the name, right? You think that's it. You have this vision and that's enough. And you learn really quickly that being a business owner is its own talent, like its own education. People have, degrees in this. And here we were. Okay. What's QuickBooks? I don't know. An LLC. What's that? So it was just, definitely like and guess when we did it? We opened it. We officially opened the actual business in 2007 is when our first, we incorporated. So we were open several years prior, but 2007 when the market crashed and we had just gotten a building, an office space and, it was hard knocks for sure. Mm-hmm. But, so there was that challenge. And then moving away from working with my husband in the center, that was its own challenge because he fired me really. I just, we're good together, but we're not good at everything together. Literally, he was like, I think I need to let you go. I was like, okay, I think so too. I just had this thing. I don't even want to go into it. It's just a fun thing. I was like, I could tell people if they were going to be really high maintenance on the phone, so I wouldn't call them back. And I get it. I get it now. I get that you have to call everyone back. I get it. But at the time, I was like, no, I have an intuition about this person and I'm not calling them back. So you can see where I'm going with this. There's a lot of roller coaster. It was crazy. But what helped me tremendously was finding the people whose work I admired and seeking them out, literally seeking them out. Unfortunately for me, two of them lived in Los Angeles. So I was able to literally do that. Now, you can take one of their courses online. You can, watch their YouTube videos. Then it wasn't quite there yet. And these two people, my mentors, were not there yet. So I literally had to go and email them and contact them and say, hey, can I learn from you? Can I hang out here? And that was a huge help. That really catapulted my awareness of how they ran their businesses, how they taught, how they spoke their lingo during lectures, how they treated their employees. That was the hands-on experience that changed everything. And, but still more challenges to come after that. I used to say to my friends, because I was, starting this gut health world that people didn't know anything about then. I wasn't the pioneer by any means, but I was certainly first on the scene in a lot of communities to be talking about everything has to do with a healthy gut. Everything. How you heal from a virus, how you heal from a broken bone. It all comes down to what is the state of your gut health. And no one was talking like that, then. And so, when it did start to take off, I would watch all these people doing so well. I would see them online and watch their branding grow. And here I was saying, I helped build those train tracks. Why aren't I on that train that's passing me by? And that was incredibly frustrating, like to the point where I quit all the time. That happened for years, for like 3 or 4 years. I just watched people taking off with the gut health world. And I was like, felt like I was being left behind. That was a big one.
Yeah, I think that probably is a challenge a lot of people go through, where they feel like they have this expertise or this desire they want to put out there. And then they kind of see other people kind of come along and they're running off with this, and they're becoming the big names, if you will.
Yeah.
In those industries. And then they're like, oh.
What about me?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
I mean,
how
I
did
don't know
you
what to
manage
say about that?
I mean, in time did you decide, this is going to be my strategy now to really get out there with what I know?
I mean, there's probably a lot of sort of self-help experts and people who would disagree with what I'm about to say. But I think when I shifted my goal to wanting to make a name for myself, that's when things shifted. When I said, you know what? I'm not here to be famous. I'm not here to be the biggest healthy gut girl, the gut expert of the planet. I want to just help people. I want to make money doing it. And I want to be happy doing what I'm doing. That's when I narrowed my focus down to that. And I looked around and I said, well, I'm doing that. I don't have the following I'd like yet. And I don't have the money I'd like yet, but I'm heading in the right direction. So I'm on my own train tracks. I'm not on that train, but I'm on this train. And then my faith was helpful too in saying, surrender. Ultimately you're not in control of the outcome, no matter how much you think you are. So it's time to stop thinking that you are and stop white knuckling the steering wheel and just release it a little bit, have your goals in mind, and just every day wake up and make sure you're doing your day is designed around making those particular things happen. And then you'll look back in a year with your consistency and not judging yourself against other people. And you'll look back and you'll go, wow, I've come a long way. I really have. And that, I think that a lot changed for me. It was like a relief. I was stressed. I let a lot of stress go when I finally was able to do that.
And you were mentioning about starting around 2007 or so. And I know that, at least 10 years ago, a lot of things, the way businesses were online was completely different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of things that are in place now weren't there.
Right. Yeah. We were scrambling, even now, people are scrambling like, okay, it's no longer Facebook. Now it's Instagram, and now it's Twitter, and now it's, and now we're not doing summits. Now we're doing courses, and now we're not doing, now they're live courses. And it's a constant, the growth is exponential with this stuff. So yeah, in 2007 is when we incorporated, but we had started like 4 years before that. And that, also was just, everything was new, everything. So but it was fun. I don't look back on it and think I certainly would have made different choices, but, I don't really regret much. Much.
So do you feel that over the time that you were building this, that you found that people were more receptive to this more healthy, message, that they really could look at the gut health and all of that, because, you know, I'm asking because, for instance, I know when I was working in an office, there was so much emphasis on just, you know, you go down, you eat whatever, you're stressed. I was in IT, you work on these hours, you're never really thinking about your health until something happens. And then you're eating a lot of crap that you're just grabbing outside or in the, you know, in the cafeteria. You're not thinking about how all these things work together. So, you know, as you went on, was it, I guess, quote unquote, easier to really let people know, hey, you've got to care about what's inside your body? Or, you know, do you feel that that was changing as you were getting out there?
What's kind of cool about what I do is that everybody has a complaint about their physical health. I mean, that's not cool, but it's true. And so it kind of keeps me in business, right? So if it's like, you know, if I say something to someone like, look, if you die before the age of 85 from anything other than a tragic accident, it is related to gut health. And then people go, wait a minute, what? And now you start, okay, well, like what? I have IBS. Is that, I mean, you know, and they start to think about all the things that ail them. They start to think about high cholesterol and once, does gut health have to do with high cholesterol? Yeah. Does my poor vision have to do with gut health? Does my, you know, all of a sudden it opens up the world to each individual person that's like, wait, I can do something about my diabetes or, you know, my hormone health. And so gut health is amazing in that way because it really is at the foundation of every health concern, even genetic predisposition. So it's quite easy to chat about, you know, to bring it up and sort of sell it, if you will, about, okay, let's, and then in the corporate world that you're just talking about, like working and, you know, going to an office. I mean, who can't relate to that? Even now with working at home and just being in front of the computer all day. And now you know, it's 2:00 and you've had 3 cups of coffee and then you go in and you have a bag of chips or maybe you have a smoothie, let's say, but you still haven't had much nourishment. I mean, we can all relate to that. And those choices are basically, they underline all of our health concerns, everything. You know, we can have an impact with that. And the stress is the biggest, you know, stress at work and energy levels and whatnot. That all is something we can control through paying attention, focusing on gut health.
And, you know, as I touched on before we start recording, was that one of the topics that you talk about has to do with how you can support your health, in order to be more productive and to possibly ward off depression and all these ailments that you think, well, what does it have to do with, with that? I mean, I wouldn't even connect all those things together.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is that, you know, like once you start to pick at it and you start to go, okay, like, for example, the coffee. I mean, that's probably the most common. Coffee, if, you know, people say, oh, I'm not addicted. I can drink a cup of coffee before I go to bed and fall right to sleep. That's a red flag because coffee is a stimulant. It raises your cortisol 100%. I mean, 100% of the time. And it's a stimulant. So if you are able to have coffee and go to bed, that says something about your batteries in your body, which are your adrenals. It says something, you know, there's no judgment on it. It's just a fact, right? The biological biochemistry, the way our adrenals work. So if we're reliant on that for our energy, well, a simple thing, not simple, but is to start to mitigate how we're getting our energy. We're supposed to get it through our food and water and fresh air. We're supposed to feed our body in that way. Coffee's fine if you're not using it to keep your energy up. So, you know, there are ways to mitigate that. You can start with doing a half calf. You can go to 1 day of caffeine, one day coffee, 1 day green tea, 1 day decaf, 1 day, and you can start to alternate and find out, well, what is it that my adrenals need that I'm not giving them and they're taking the caffeine to use instead. And that answer to that is B vitamins and magnesium and water and sleep. There's 6 things actually that the adrenals need. 6 things, but that's how you start with it. You're like, okay, well, I'm clearly not getting enough sleep. So, and I can't do anything about that because I'm tired and stressed and I just wake up, I'm up insomniac and through the night. And then I wake up in the morning and I want to go right back to sleep, right? So we can't mess with the sleep because the sleep is what it is. So what can we do? Well, we can do the half-calf thing. We can try to quit. We can feed our adrenals and nourish them. There's this thing called sleep hygiene, where we start to sort of create an environment in our bedroom that is specific to nourish sleep and not to wake you up. For example, blue lights, devices, televisions, even a digital clock near your head, all these little electromagnetic frequencies. And this is not, hocus pocus. This is measurable frequencies that actually have an impact on our sleep rhythms, on our circadian rhythms. And they seem subtle and they don't seem like it's a big deal. But if you start to mitigate these things one at a time, you'll start to notice changes. Sleeping in a completely dark room, sleeping in a cool room. If it's too cold, you have a blanket, but it's better to have cooler temperatures when you sleep rather than warmer temperatures. So this is all, it's called sleep hygiene. And so there's all these things we can do to foster healthier adrenals and therefore better energy. And then there's the whole subject of diet, which is a whole other podcast.
I am sure because that's a whole other topic. That's very interesting about the sleep because I'm one of those people that ends up falling asleep with the TV. And then I get annoyed that with streaming and things these days, they'll be like, well, if you're not watching, it like goes off, and I get really annoyed because I'm asleep, but I wake up when I don't hear anything.
Oh, so you need that sound in the background. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I see. Well, yeah. And then it's like, are you watching? I'm like, you don't have to babysit me. I can turn you off when I'm ready to turn you off. There's like white noise machines. These white noise machines. I have never used one, but I have friends that do and they love them. Although we do have an air filter in our bedroom and, that makes a bit of white noise and that when it's off, it's too silent. I'm like, oh, we need to put it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's really interesting how we get used to things and we may not even realize that we've kind of trained ourselves in a certain way. And, it may not necessarily be the most healthy thing because if you're waking up in the middle of the night because it's quiet, it seems like what's wrong.
Yeah. You live in New Jersey. You're like, can I have some noise, please? Same here in Venice. I'm like, if I don't hear a siren in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to go outside and see what's going on. Because this isn't right.
What's the problem?
Yeah. It's too silent.
That gets kind of weird, but also something else you mentioned about water. And I know for me, drinking the water is a struggle and I have the feeling it is for a lot of people. Like, how do we get through that?
Yeah. And the thing is so important. It's like crucial. And a lot of experts will argue this. And like, I think I saw a Dr. Oz episode or one of the TV doctors that was like, you don't have to drink water unless you're thirsty. And I was like, whoa, that is so sacrilege in my brain, because I have seen a lot of people's health issues not totally resolved, some of their symptoms resolved just from hydrating properly. And we can talk about what types of symptoms those are. But, so one of the things I always say to people is, if it depends on what the reason is you're not drinking it. Is it just because you're lazy and you forget, or you're too busy and you forget and half the day's gone by and now you're trying to squeeze in a quart of water in a matter of hours, because you don't like to pee all the time. You're always going to pee. Or some people don't like the taste of water, which is interesting to me, but I know my mom is like that. So I encourage people to, make like peppermint tea, hibiscus tea, like a big jar of sun tea, but flavored, like chamomile and peppermint or something like that. Make it in a huge, jar that is the amount of water that you would need for the day. So I always say, half your weight in ounces is the goal. You don't have to start there, but that's the goal. And then the first thing in the morning, you drink a quart of water. You try to drink maybe 20 ounces or 30 ounces of water with a juice of half a lemon in it, at like tepid water or room temperature. That right there is going to hydrate you from the night before. It's going to something called upregulate phase 1 liver detox. And that's really important for hormones. That's really important for bowel movements. You know, everyone counts on that coffee to have a BM in the morning. Sometimes when you get used to this water practice, it will be the thing that helps you go, which is much healthier. And then, so it gets a whole quart of water out of the way, out of how much you're meant to have for the day. And then you set yourself up with that sun tea or that, you know, whatever kind of tea you made. Hopefully it's just herbal and not caffeinated, because that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. And then, you know, you sip on that throughout the day and you keep track of how much you've had. Because some people will say, oh, they'll have a glass of water or a jar of water, or they'll have a plastic bottle of water and try to count on how many of those they had in a day. And that's just, you're not committing. It's not the goal. You want to see how much water you have to have in that day, and you want to set that goal and try to accomplish that. There's not much you can do about the urine frequency to urinate, because at first it's going to be often, more than every 3 hours, probably every hour, even less for some people. But the kidneys have to get used to that process of detoxification to support what they're supposed to be doing. And so a lot of times, not all the time, people get used to it and they don't go as frequently. They end up going about every 3 hours, which is normal. And so, so that's really my only tip I have with the water thing, besides just making it a goal, you know, because it's one of these things that, especially now with immunity and being such important and keeping healthy, I'm telling you, I think hydration is at the top of that list, because that's how your body filters and processes and hydrates the cells and gives you energy. And it's, you know, we're electrical beings, and we need that circuit. We need that hydration to create a spark, if you will. And so, yeah, so just, without bribing someone, I don't know how else to get them to just drink. Threatening them.
Well, when I've used lemon, that seems to help, because otherwise you keep thinking, it's not even to me the taste. It's just, I guess, because it has no taste. Maybe that annoys me. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, the lemon helps, and also the herbal tea, as you said. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Cucumber as well, you know, spa water, I like to call it. But you know, you end up getting into the habit. Like my mom was very averse to it, and she used to say to me, I don't sweat. I never sweat. I've never sweated my whole life. It takes an act of God to get me to break a sweat. Like, she was proud of it. I'm like, Mom, that is not okay. Like, you need to sweat. That is a form of detoxification. You need to sweat. It's important. And she hated water. And then I finally convinced her to commit to at least 6 weeks of just you can do 10 days at a time if you want to, but just commit. I'm going to do this many days in a row. And now she is a water fiend, and it's changed her life. She used to have problems with kidney stones. She used to have, her skin was always very crepey and papery. I mean, the symptoms were on and on and on. And she, ultimately is now just like, you know, it's just part of what she does. It's just part of her daily routine is to just make sure she's drinking water. You just get into the habit, you know?
Yeah, that's a great, suggestion as far as different ways people can do that, because again, we don't realize how important these almost simple things are. You know, it's not like you've got to go out there and spend zillions on some special drink. It's water. It's just have water.
Yeah, it's just water.
Right. And make all the difference to your health, or at least get started. You know, that's the thing I think a lot of us don't realize until we get into that habit and we see some differences, but it's not something people realize is so important, I think.
Yeah. And you know, we're so kind of programmed to be like, I have a headache, I take an aspirin, the headache goes away. I have an upset stomach, I take Pepto-Bismol, I take a Nexium, whatever it is, and I feel better. And water isn't always like that. And neither is nutrition in general. You can't just take vitamin C and go, oh, I feel so good, or have a green smoothie and say, wow. It doesn't work like that. It's cumulative. And although some nutrients like vitamin Bs, people can feel the energy from that. But with nutrition and hydration and breath work and meditation and prayer, that stuff is not like, well, sometimes it can be cathartic, but usually it's tedious. And you don't really feel the effects of prayer sometimes. You don't really feel the effects of sitting in silence right away. But, habitual thing, making habits of these things, you start to notice. Like I said earlier, like you look back after 6-7 months and you go, wow, I have lost 15 pounds. I drink water every day. My bowel movements are great. I'm sleeping 1 more hour a night. Like you start to see these things cumulatively, hopefully.
Yeah, I definitely, I definitely saw that when I was drinking water, probably years ago when I was kind of managing what I ate, and the water made such a difference, and I was shocked because I didn't even realize how much of a component that was, even though I've heard about it, but you're like, you don't really want to believe that. Right. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I used to get terrible headaches. I used to get migraines as well, but I used to get these frontal sort of scalp headaches. Like it was just like tension headaches. That's the word. And, I used to think it was because my day was long and I was feeling stressed out. And then an acupuncturist told me, says right before I met my husband, was like, well, how much water do you drink? I'm like, I don't know, just like when I'm thirsty. And he was like, no, you need to drink this much water. And I never had another one of those headaches again. I started carrying my water in my car back when it wasn't a thing, and I was like, wow, this is really making a difference. And, such a simple thing, and I've seen it with a lot of clients, headaches going away, especially those headaches, and easy fixes.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And also to be patient, because as you said, it's, something that happens over time. And sometimes, we want right away things to change, but you really have to do that over time. And then you start to see a result.
It's those long-term, it's those efforts, and that goes for everything, doesn't it? Like, your whole podcast, is just like about fostering that, creative energy to produce, to create, to, to bring your dreams to fruition and your goals to fruition. And that's not something that, maybe for some people, but I've never seen it happen rapidly. And it's just so difficult to commit to that, effort. And the same thing goes with our health. Exact same thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. It really is just that commitment, and then realizing everything. It's not overnight as much as we may want that to happen. But, could you please share where the listeners can find out more about you?
Oh, yes. Well, my baby is my podcast, Stuff Your Doctor Should Know, also on Apple Music and Spotify. And then I have my website, which is healthygutgirl.com. But, my Instagram is healthygutgirl_. And you must spell it all out because there are imposters out there. So healthygutgirl_ on Instagram. That's where I post a lot of my free information and anything that's exciting. And then I have a gift for your listeners. If they want to go to healthygutgirl.com/gift. And that is going to be some free information about gut-friendly foods and, really good recommendations for supplements, and discounts on things that I offer. So, and of course, if you want to join my community, you can do it there.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. And those links will be in the show notes, so that will be very easy for everyone to access, and you can get more information. So, and I guess these days, particularly obviously with the COVID and people being indoors, or at least to some degree, we were quarantined, and I know a lot of people, including myself, you're home, maybe not doing as much, activity, probably eating too much, those kinds of things. At some point, what are some things maybe that you could recommend that we could really get ourselves, I don't know if necessarily detox is the right word, but just to try to get ourselves together so that as we're going through these times, that maybe we can make some better health choices so that we can not, just kind of be sitting around and eating.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm guilty. And it's, it's a comforting, right? It's a comfort. When the unknown is looming and everything, it's like, I go straight to pizza. I go straight to wine and booze. It's just like my thing. And so I get it totally. And I think that, I do this thing with my clients who get overwhelmed, because what I do is overwhelming when I'm like, let's remediate your gut health. It's like, whoa. Yeah. Right. It's like, let's just look at this in a pie chart and say, let's do 80-20, right? So 80% of your week should be spent consuming foods and making homemade foods. And if that's not something that you're into, I suggest you try, because times are changing. And I think making your own food is the first step to boosting your own health and taking control of your own health. What you feed yourself, 80% of the time, you look at it like medicine, nourishment. And then 20% of the time, it's soul food. You're feeding your comfort. Maybe that's Friday night through Sunday morning or Sunday night. And then you get back on that train on Monday, and then you're making soups and you're cooking things that you're like, and you remind yourself, this is nourishment. This is to keep my immune system healthy. This is to feed myself, and it's medicine. And then 20% of the time you're like, oh yeah, come here, pizza. And you balance it out. And, that's one big thing, is the perspective we have on how we feed ourselves needs to shift. And the other thing is, I highly recommend digestive enzymes for everyone these days. It used to be particular. Now I'm like, everyone should take digestive enzymes. And that's just to help you digest what you're eating, to support that process. Because once your digestion fails, that food begins to putrefy in the gut. And that's where we get acidity, leaky gut, IBS, all those things happen, and they trigger the dominoes of every disease you can think of. So digestive enzymes, you can get them inexpensively. They're a simple fix. When you eat something, you just have a digestive enzyme. Those are the two things that I would say, especially during these times of uncertainty when we're at home a lot. Learn to cook.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, because I think that when I've done that, it's been better and it tastes better and you feel better. But then a lot of times you just are ordering a lot of stuff, and then you realize you're not really getting what you need and not getting the nutrition, or you're still tired or just not feeling right. Then you could see that, oh, maybe this isn't a really good idea to have this all the time.
Yeah. I mean, and we can't be so hard on ourselves too. Like, we get inspired, and then we jump on this program, and then we do this, and then we fall off, and then we're like disgusted with ourselves, and we never want to try it again. We just want to live in our misery. And then we get inspired again, and we do it again. Instead of judging ourselves for falling off that train, just, okay, I'm going through a phase where I'm not taking care of myself as good as I can, and it's going to shift. And then you get back up, and then you do it again, and you get back up, and you do it again and again. You look back, and 6 months later, you're like, wow, I actually had meatless Mondays for 6 months in a row. Or I actually, made soup and leftovers instead of door dashing or Postmating or whatever. And you start to see these patterns you've created for yourself. And that's really kind of like the way I do everything. Instead of looking up at Mount Everest and be like, I got to climb it. Just look at the next step in front of you and move forward with an awareness of what you would like to be doing with your life and your health, Yeah,
that's a great suggestion, because it does seem like you jump on something. It seems great. Oh, we're going to do this. And then when it starts to kind of fade, and then it's like, oh, I wasn't able to continue this. And then you start to feel really bad.
Yeah. And you throw in the towel, and you don't ever want to see a diet again.
Yeah. The industry makes money off of
Yeah.
that constant treadmill that we tend to go on.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy either to be doing that all the time. So yeah, I think that's just great advice, Kitty. And, you know, this is a conversation we could go on and on because it is so many things that touch on what you're talking about. And health is certainly something we need to, look at and really make a priority. But, you know, for now, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share with us?
I think that, you know, I love giving that Mount Everest, a visual. I say that a lot because I think it's something that everyone does and they get overwhelmed by looking at this. Oh, I'm going to join CrossFit and it's so overwhelming, or I'm going to go on this diet or whatever. And it's like, don't look at that big picture. It's so overwhelming. Just take little bites of it. And also just thank you I wish that when we started our business and when I started to do this, that I had a resource like your show, because, you know, you need to hear that there's other people out there and that this is going on, and that you want to hear their journeys so that you can, you know, avoid their mistakes and do the things that they did right. And so, yeah. And so thank you for your show and your input into this space for sure.
Well, thank you for being on, because I definitely want to hear from other women entrepreneurs to see what they were doing, because you don't always hear from the legion of women who are out here doing their thing. You know, you kind of hear about a few people of the celebrity status or whatever, but then people don't know that there's more going on, and there's so many women in business who are doing so many things. And
yeah,
I just wanted to connect with them, so I've been so excited to do that. And I'm very encouraged that this has continued, and hopefully will go on and get even stronger. So
nice. Well, there is a need for it, so it will.
Yeah, there's definitely more women to be out here and doing that. As we said earlier, you know, a lot of times people start something because of their own journey, and you never know what you're doing is going to help someone else. And that's so important. So Kitty, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. This has really been a wonderful conversation.
Oh, thank you. It was really nice being here, and you're so lovely, and I love listening to your shows. I was doing a binge listen, and I really enjoy it. So thank you.
Great. That's great. So, everyone, I know you enjoyed it as well, and make sure you check out the links that I will have in the show notes again that, Kitty shared with us, and check out her gift as well. And, you know, just start out with water. That's all you can do right now. Just make a start. So I'll have to make sure I get my cup out.
Yes.
Because I have it out there, but I don't always finish drinking my water, but I do realize that it would certainly help me.
You can do it.
I'll keep that in mind. Oh my goodness. So everyone, this once again to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again next time. Bye-bye now.